Hello and welcome to chapter 1, tutorial 7 of my C++ DirectX11 tutorials. So last time we saw containers, that was kind of cool. Now we can start to see how we can do our stuff for game making and stuff. So now we will see classes. This is even cooler. So classes is a very well-known concept for you guys coming from C# or Java. But C++ has mostly everything else has simply different syntax. So let's just delete everything we did here in the previous tutorial. All right, let's start clean. And remember, we were creating a hero class previously. Well, it was a struct, but it can be a class. Now we're going to create it like the most proper way. We're going to create new files for it. So technically you should put every class in its own files. It's not a hard rule in C++. You don't have to do this. It's cleaner. It's easier to find yourself also. So let's right click on the project, not the solution. All right, and let's add new item. All right, and you want to add a H file, header file. So, well, let's create it first and then we'll discuss about what it is. So, oh, I didn't give it a name. Just rename it hero. All right. So we're going to create a H file for hero. And what's the H file? The header file is going to contain. It's only going to contain the declaration of your class. So how the class looks like and stuff, but all the implementation of the functions are going to be into another file. So you can do the same thing, right click on the project, add new item, and now you will select the CPP file and you will call it hero. Click add. Now you see you have a hero file and an H file. All right, so what you want to do is call it class hero. Don't forget the semicolon. All right, and we had previously some public properties, remember? So we had the string, we had the name, which we initialized to Bob, and we had health, which we initialized to 100. And string is not found, remember to include it. This is a new file, this is a different file, so you need to tell him where to find stuff. And we're going to use the namespace std, so we don't have to type std here. All right, and then now we basically have what we had previously. So I can go in my main, and I want to create a hero, and then just see out hero.name. But it's red, it doesn't find it because it's in another file. So what you have to do now is include your hero. So you can see the list of includes there, it's right there, heroes.hero.h. So in C++, when you do something like this, and it's the same thing as when we were doing those things, you will notice, first of all, the syntax is a little bit different. So this is because it's a standard library, so you will usually use those little brackets here, and those are kind of pre-compiled kind of objects. There are different kind of include files, so they don't have an extension like .h. But in this case, this is literally just a project file, so you will put normal quotes to your file and just call it hero.h. So you're going to end up having more of those than those in your project probably eventually. But it's a good way also to kind of differentiate them. Well, those are like standard stuff and this is your custom stuff. All right, so now that I've included, you will see that it works. Yeah, but let's say another project included, like this one, for example. This is a CPP file, so this is compiled, it's going to include it. And usually it shouldn't work, but it worked there. Let me just, yeah, okay. So if I include it twice, it's going to say that, hey, class is already defined. You cannot define that twice. Because what's happening with the H file, it's basically taking this, all right, and it's copy pasting it there. And then the same thing twice. So class is basically defined twice. This is exactly what including H file does. There's no magic, there's nothing else. It takes what's there and it copy pastes it there. All right. But you will end up with a situation where you will include them twice because maybe you include another file and include it. And so what you want to do is just put at the top here, pragma once. So this will only work with Visual Studio unless this, no, I think this is a new C++ standard now actually. It might work in GCC and C-Lang too on other platforms. But anyway, basically it just says the second time this is included, just ignore it. Right? So you don't end up with errors like this. So I can include the error twice now and it's going to work. It's going to compile fine. So that's what include does. Now you've learned really what include is. You just copy paste what's there and you put it there. So, all right, so we got our little class that we had previously. But now we want to maybe create a function. So remember we were creating a void print hero and we were doing stuff there. Well, this is not clean too. This is kind of global. What I want to do is just do hero.print and it just prints the stuff for me. So no problem. We can create a new method here. Right? So let's call it print. And there's two ways of doing it. You can just do the cout here and just go on from there. But usually what you want to do in C++ is to keep the header files clean. Because the header files is the file you're going to open and see, you know, you can just see, let's say you publish some of your codes and other people are going to use your code and they just open your header files and they see, oh, he has a hero class and the hero class can do this, and has those members, without having to, you know, scroll thousands of lines of function declaration and stuff. It's just pure declaration of, you know, it's a clean view of your class. Where you want to actually implement this, you're going to go into the CPP file. So CPP file are files that are actually compiled. So what you want to do is define it there. And you want to put hero there because you have to tell him, well, I'm defining the class of the hero with the little scope things here, colon. So the reason why this is like that, because it doesn't matter which file it's in, right? I can take this and I can put it there and it will work. This will compile fine. There's no problem. So it's not the file name that matters, it's what you put in front of the function here that's going to tell us this function, where is this from, right? Who's the owner of this? So so let's include our IO stream here because we want to use cout, and we're going to use using namespace std. So, sorry if my keyboard is very loud. This is a mechanical keyboard. I think the sound is cool. I hope you guys don't get annoyed too much by this. I like to listen to my videos and listen to the keyboard. I like the sound of it. Anyway, so cout, we're going to print the name as elf. Right, so you'll notice something here. Remember previously we're doing hero.name. Well, now we are in the hero itself, right? We are in the class, so we don't have to do that anymore. So this is wonderful. So we're doing a print, so let's try this. And Bob has 100. Wonderful. 100 what? Well, maybe it has 100 health, right? Okay, so, all right, pretty simple. So let's say now I have hero Dave, and I was saying his name is Dave, then I will see Dave as 100 just by calling the print function of the object directly. So, there's something though normally there that we don't do is we don't give access directly to member variables like this. So let's first of all put them private, shall we? So I haven't talked about this, just a little parenthesis here. Usually in C# and in Java it's going to be private, blah blah blah, private, blah blah blah. This will not compile in C++. You need to have the colon. And C++ you basically put private and everything that follows is private. And then you can change back to public later and everything that follows is going to be public. So I kind of find this a little bit cleaner. You know, when you end up having a lot of stuff, it looks a little bit more clean to look at it. But yeah, so this is a little bit different from C++ and Java, C# and Java, I mean. So now that they're private, also I'm going to put like a little m_from to say it's a member. This is just personal preference, but it seems to be widely used in gaming and programming in general. M means for member, right? So now I can't do this anymore because this is private, right? So class hero has no member name. Or if I say m name because the name changed, you know, it says member is inaccessible because it's private, right? I cannot access it. So we're going to create a set name function, right? And we're going to pass the name in parameter. All right. And we're going to set its name to the name. Now we can do hero Dave, let's set name and calling Dave. Now this is going to work. Oh yeah, so I've renamed them, so this doesn't compile anymore. Awesome. Alright, Dave and Bob. So now you saw how to create functions and private members. But you know what will be convenient is actually having a constructor. So constructor is probably very well known from you guys too. So you can have a constructor that accepts a name directly. So you can define, same thing. Constructor is a public or private function that takes no output type, and it has the same name as the class itself. And we're going to set the name to the name. So what this will allow us to do is basically just remove this. And now as you can see, they're both wrong because there's no default constructor. This is the only constructor that there is, and they're now forcing us to set a name. Right? So we don't have to set a default anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, this is Bob and this is Dave. All right. So by creating the variable like this, we are also set the constructor parameters. Right, Bob and Dave. So this is a little bit more convenient way of creating. You can have multiple constructors, right? So let's say I have int armor default to 0. Well, maybe that hero is stronger and it starts with more armor. So you can have multiple constructors like this. All right. So that's it. That is cool. Oops, what's wrong here? Oh, yeah, of course. I need to put this. Awesome. All right, so that's it for the basic of a class. Now let's move on. So we saw constructor, how to call a function, set a name, and remember we did a little damage function. So let's do this. Let's implement damage. No, not data, damage. and we're going to damage our hero. Alright, and we're going to say, well, elf minus equal damage. And we saw the if conditions in the previous tutorial, so now we can do elf, if elf, oops, is lower than 0, well, just clamp it back to 0 because you don't want to print negative elf on the screen. Alright, so now we can actually damage it. Hero.damage 40, let's say, and then hero.print again. So you can see that Bob got damage and it's now at 60 health. Okay, so pretty standard stuff. And so there's something in the, I don't think Java has this, but C# has something which is kind of cool, but I kind of grown to hate it. It's called access, or it's called property. So basically, you have the elf and or the armor here, and in C# you can do like public and armor, and basically get set, or you can define the get set like this. And anyway, you guys have done this multiple times, I'm sure. I'm not a fan of this. I've used it a lot in C# and it's very convenient and all, and in the end you just end up confused that every time you use someone else's class or like a Microsoft class, and then you call something like count, let's say, like array.count. That one I never remembered. Sometimes it's a property, but from another object it's actually a function call, and you never get it right the first time, and it gets really annoying. So I think properties in the whole, like you end up, most of the time you end up overloading both the get and the set. And most of the works I've done, it's pretty rare I have properties that are just get set and that's it. Like normally there's a reason why you want to do a get and a set, because there's some stuff you want to do there. So I think it's just better to have, you know, your get armor and your set armor, and you just define them. And in C++, well, you have no choice to do it this way because there's no set and there's no get and there's no properties. So you have to do it manually. Personally, if I were to write my own language, which I'm trying to right now, this is a different project, I'm not doing properties because they're awesome and at the same time they're really not awesome, and I waste a lot of time on them. So anyway, so get armor, return m armor, and armor, sorry, m armor equal armor, and this will compile. So so you can start seeing the class here being constructed and how clean the H file looks. So hey, what's public? What I have access to? Oh, all those function calls, pretty clear, pretty simple. And what's private? This is the private members. So if it was all the declaration and the implementation of the function, I mean, if they were in the H file, it just starts to look pretty ugly, and it ends up looking like Java and C#, and you just look at the file and it's pretty confusing and there's a lot of crap in there. I know there's always like the class view, and this is actually the proper way of seeing things. But you know, I think it's more of an IDE problem. I still believe H file should disappear from C++. Well, they can't because it's backward compatible and stuff, but I still think they're not that great because you need 2 files for every class, and it's a little bit annoying. IDE should probably better have visualizing without you having to do into a class view, and then, you know, I've just done like 1, 2, 3 clicks just to go see something. It would be great if those language actually maybe add a summary at the top, and it's probably part of the IDE itself. So anyway, that's for another discussion. But in C++, you basically have that cleaner header file, and you have the body there. And yeah, let's just try the our little armor thing function there to make sure that that works well. Always test your stuff. Eh? Let's declare like a hero and call it badass paladin. Right, and this guy, see, now I'm using the other constructor, which takes the armor parameter, and it has 10 armor, which is very strong, right? So and then see out paladin armor. All right, and I'm going to do hero dot, well, let's not call it hero, it's already called like that. Let's call it paladin dot get armor. All right, and paladin armor 10. So that's how you write a class. Basically, you create two files, and header files, again, just plain declaration definition, and then you implement them into the CPP in more details. And there's no accessor, there's no get set, it's just plain functions, constructor, and members. There's a lot more stuff that I'm not going to get into. Okay, there are like multiple constructors, there are copy constructors, okay, there are move constructors, which is new to C++11. You don't have to worry about that in any of my tutorials. They're cool stuff, but a little bit more complex. But yeah, so basically this is it. And the next tutorials, it's going to get a little bit confusing. So we're going to see about pointers. All right, pointer is kind of important to go through it. I would love to not have to use pointers at all in any of my tutorials, but one day or the other we're going to need them, and mostly when we start doing DirectX or Windows stuff, they are backward compatible APIs to, you know, like C and stuff, and so they rely on pointers, and you need to understand what they are a little bit, and it's always a subject that is hard to approach like this, but you will see. I think I will make it simple for you. Yeah, so let's see each other in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching.